Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to this completely new setting. If you watched this recent video of mine, you know that I moved a couple of weeks ago. I am now in a completely new country on a completely different continent because I'm doing my master's at a different university, and so that's basically why we're in this new setting. It is currently night that I'm filming this, that's why the lighting isn't the best, but this way at least my twinkle lights look really pretty in the background. I'm able to film this right now because my roommate is not currently here, but should she come in, I will have to stop the clip and continue filming somewhere else at some other time because I have not yet told her that I'm a YouTuber, because it scares some people, and honestly it would scare me too if my new roommate would be like, you know what, I'm a YouTuber. That's scary. So that's why I have kept that information for myself until now. I mean, I will have to tell her at some point, but that's basically why I decided to film right now, even though it's dark outside, because my roommate is currently not here. So bear with me in terms of lighting and also like this setup. This is the first video I'm like sit down video I'm filming here, so this is all pretty new. Yeah, bear with me. Anyway, I have turned on the camera to film the second half of my August reading wrap up. The video I uploaded last week was about the books I read in the first half of August, and with it now being September 8th or 9th, I'm obviously able to tell you about the books I read in the second half of August. So let's get right into it. The first book I managed to read, I already teased it in that other video, was another Agatha Christie murder mystery. Though, was it a murder mystery? I actually don't really believe it was. Anyway, the book I read of Agatha Christie's was The Big Four. I made a dedicated video about it, but it was not the video basically I wanted to make about it. I wanted to make another me trying to solve an Agatha Christie murder mystery as I'm reading it, but turned out it was actually not possible to even do that with this specific book, because this is not your usual Agatha Christie book. It's not a typical murder mystery where basically the entire book is about just one specific case and we're trying to figure out who done it, right? But this was about this international gang of criminals, and there were a lot of different murders in the books, but they always got solved within the chapter that they were talked about already. So there was not this one case that I was able to try and solve, because it turned out, yeah, it wasn't the kind of book, and I didn't know that had an ink to it. So basically this book was somewhat of a disappointment to me. Had I known that this was like a different kind of Agatha Christie book, I would have never tried to make a video like that about it. But me not knowing it, the video definitely was a bit of a mess. I mean, you're still like welcome to check it out, but yeah, unfortunately I was not really able to make this a fun trying to solve a murder mystery video, because turns out there was no murder mystery in there to be solved by me. So to be really honest, this must have been my least favorite Agatha Christie so far, simply because it was not what I expected. But that was kind of like my fault, because I didn't do my research on the book, I guess, before, but I didn't think it would be necessary to do research on it, because all the other Agatha Christies I have read so far, they all followed the same structure, so to say. But yeah, just so you are aware, The Big Four is not your typical Agatha Christie book. Anyway, moving on. The second book I read in the second half of August was The Disaster Tourist, a book I was quite a big fan of, to be honest. So this book basically explores this theme of obviously disaster tourism. I had never come across the term before, even though I'm sure this is, sadly so, very much a real life thing and not just a concept that the author came up with for her book. I'm sure some people actually do this, even though the idea is absolutely unfathomable. So disaster tourism basically is, if you can't guess it by the name, exactly what it sounds like. It is companies organizing trips to places that have been struck by disaster, any kind of disaster, whether that is natural, such as earthquakes or tsunamis, natural disasters like that, whether that is human-induced disasters such as war or famine. And basically this book is about a certain employee at such a travel company that is organizing disaster tourism trips, and she is sent on one of the trips they're offering to find out if this is still a packaging worth offering. Is this still like a fun and exciting trip that they can sell to customers, or is it one of the trips that they should cut? So she's sent to this fictional island state off of the coast of Vietnam that has a couple of years before been struck by a sinkhole, or basically a sinkhole appeared on this island which led to destruction, death, and that's how it became a destination for disaster tourism. But now it has been a couple of years. She goes there to experience the trip and see if it's still exciting, even though that's a really weird term to use, but you know what I mean in the context, to give feedback to her company. And it appears that this island is more or less deserted. There's basically no one around. It seems to be really boring, nothing going on there. So obviously a trip to chop. But then basically she finds out what is going on behind the scenes on this island that has become dependent on this disaster tourism, is facing the reality of now no longer being a hot and fresh and new disaster tourism destination, though, because this disaster happened already like some time ago, and so it's not interesting to the people that are interested in this kind of stuff anymore. And basically what the people living on the island that are dependent on this form of tourism see themselves forced to do to keep a living. I'm already, I think, insinuating it very much so where this book is going, basically. This was very interesting. Obviously, this is more about exploring this, as I just said, I fear not just a theoretical concept of the implications of such a form of tourism, though obviously I think you can translate the implications also to the normal style of tourism that you would probably be thinking about when we're talking about tourism, and the consequences it has on the place that becomes a disaster tourism destination. It was very fascinating. It was also like a very quick read because the book is not all that long, and yeah, I had a very good time with it and found it to be especially like fascinating out of this, let's say, philosophical point of view, because it made you think about a lot of different concepts and implications of tourism, disaster tourism, and so on and so forth. After that, I read, now this is definitely a novella short story because it was only 140 pages long. I read this short story called Deadly Sins completely randomly, to be honest. Basically, how I even found this book, because I had never heard about this book, the short story, nor this author before. So basically, after The Big Four and my video on it was such a flop, to be honest, I was researching some fun mystery books with like a tons of twists that I could possibly make like a plot video on, because right now and like in general for like the past couple of weeks, months, I've been really into these hyper detailed plot summary videos. Even if they are about things that I have neither watched nor read, I eat that shit up right now. And I recently did a video like that on the cartographers, and I had a really good time with that video. So I had this idea, let me find a book that would be like a lot of fun to explain because it has so many twists and turns, etc., and make a video like that on it. And I only did like let's say 2-minute Google research, but I heard about this book, Deadly Sins, by I think N.H. Lewis or something. I don't know, I don't remember the author's name right now. And so I got like the ebook off of Amazon, but basically it turned out this was not at all what I had been looking for in terms of like this murder mystery story with like tons of twists and turns. It did give cozy murder mystery vibes, even though like I hesitate to even call it a murder mystery because it was really not that much about figuring out the murder. I mean, it kind of was, but the story was so short that obviously there was not like a lot of build up or like who done it. But there was this very, let's say, like lackluster case of a murder happening. And I mean, me as like an expert on the subject of murder mysteries, I definitely saw the ending coming from a mile and 2 meters away. Wait, that didn't make any sense, like mile, but then using meters. You know what I'm saying though, like this was not an original murder mystery story in any way, shape or form. But if you're looking for a very quick, kind of fun, cozy murder mystery read that you could easily read maybe on like a rainy day, snuggling up with your twinkle lights on, with maybe like a candle lit, a cup of tea. They drink hella tea in this book. Cozy up in your little reading nook and spend just like the entire day reading that thing, that would totally be a vibe. But as I just said, it was also in no way, shape or form original. So it was not at all what I had actually been looking for when I was stumbling upon it on my Google research, but I don't regret reading it. But yeah, just so you know. And in case you check out this short story and in case you like it, this I think was only it's 140 pages. Anyway, like book number 2 in a series starring the same main protagonist. So if you find yourself liking the style of this author, this kind of like funny, cozy murder mystery vibe, there's apparently more where that came from. After that, I decided to reread The Love Hypothesis. This is one of the few books I decided to take with me when I moved. Here are some of the other books. If you want to hear which books I took with me and why I did take them with me, you can check out this other video. But yeah, so this is one of the few physical books I took with me, and I decided to reread it because I liked it so much when I listened to it as an audiobook at the end of July. And this time around I annotated it, and I believe this is actually the first fictional book that I have ever annotated. And I mean, this looks like I didn't do too many annotations, but basically I only put in tabs for very few occasions, but I basically left my like thoughts and feelings and commentaries on every single page of the book. I don't really think, I mean, everybody I guess has their own style of annotating, but I guess I went a little overboard because yeah, I underlined almost everything. I put my thoughts on the sidelines of the pages. On basically every page, I really went all in because, I don't know, about this book, I just have a lot of thoughts and feelings. I have talked about it in a ton of other videos before. I can try to link all of them wherever possible, but basically this was another reread that of course also prepared me because, in case you don't know, Elie Hazelwood's newest release has just dropped and it just came into me on Libby, so I could actually be reading it right now. But I'm still finishing another romance book, so I want to read that. I want to finish that fast, and then in between I want to read like a palette cleanser, so I don't read two romance books back to back because I want to like separate them in my brain, you know. So I will still need some time until I read Love on the Brain, but I'm very much looking forward to it. I just today watched Carrie's August reading wrap up, and she, funnily enough, also reread The Love Hypothesis in August, which, are we like literary soulmates? I don't know, but like her opinion was also not the first one I heard of anyone on the Love on the Brain, like the Elie Hazelwood's new book, and she basically said that it's the Love Hypothesis 2.0. But considering how much I love the Love Hypothesis, I'm very okay with that. After that, I read another romance book. I read Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I wonder into how much detail I should go right here right now because I'm contemplating the idea of making an entire video about my personal opinion on Colleen Hoover's books. So maybe I'm going to keep this kind of short, but basically I read Ugly Love and I did read it within a single day. Whatever your opinion on Colleen Hoover is, I think like objectively you have to say that her books, they suck you in. Even if you're not like a 100% fan of her work in general or of the particular story you happen to be reading, they have a way of sucking you in and you tend to read them super fast within an entire day, for example. Okay, so here's a short summary. Ugly Love is about a woman whose name I have once more forgotten, who's moving in with her brother because she had to, I think, move cities because she's now like she's picking up her college education, I don't know, and she basically starts to have this thing with the next door neighbor who also just so happens to be a friend and colleague of her brother because they're both pilots. Yes. From the beginning though, he's very open about the fact that he does not want this physical thing to go anywhere else. He wants this to remain a physical thing on all accounts. He does not want to know anything about him, his past basically, and he doesn't want to have a future with her. He's very honest about this fact, and because there's just like this insane physical attraction, she's like, sure, let's do it, whatever, even though from the beginning she's like, okay, I'm probably gonna end up falling for the guy. This is gonna be more complicated, especially the part like with this never turning into anything. And also of course she gets more and more curious about what possibly happened in his past that makes him so closed off, so like, I never want to talk about my past and I never ever want to let anyone else into my life. Of course she's curious about that, but because she basically wants him so badly, she agrees to the deal that she already knows is probably destined to be doomed. But they start their thing anyway. But do I even need to tell you? Obviously not only she but also like they start to develop feelings for each other, and it gets complicated because this guy is so traumatized from this thing that happened in his past. We do get flashback chapters of him 5 or 6 years ago, where this event that traumatized him so badly happened, and we slowly but surely learn what it was and how it explains why he is the way that he is. I was really wrapped up in the story. I read the entire book, even though it's like 450 pages within a single day. I wouldn't say that I'm like this big and huge Colleen Hoover lover. This is only the second book of hers that I have read. The first one was a reminder of him, and now this was the second. Wait, was there something else? No, I think those were... Oh no, I also read Verity, so I guess it has been 3 books. I guess I did like Ugly Love in a way, for sure. I mean, I read it so quickly because I was interested in what like this backstory of his was. I was interested in the smut you get on basically every other page. There are tons of sex scenes in here, so in case you're looking for that, I think you will have a good time with Colleen Hoover's books in general. At least like the 3 books that I have read had a ton of sex scenes in them, especially like Verity and this one remind us of him not that much, or like at least only from like the halfway point onwards. But yeah, this one also like has a ton of sex in it, in case you're not comfortable with that, or in case you're specifically looking for it. So I'm just telling you about it. Something that I noticed that bothered me while I was reading it, though, this is now like a very superficial thing, not something that goes in depth, especially like content wise, is that it bothered me, so to say, that the characters in this book are only supposed to be 23 years old. I'm turning 23 in less than 2 months. And the 23-year-old characters in this book, like, he's already an airline captain. And he has his own super fancy, super expensive apartment in Chicago or like whatever and stuff like that. And I mean, obviously I realized that not everyone, such as me, wants to, or also like has the privilege and luxury of continuing a higher education after finishing high school, grammar school, whatever it may be, and going to university, such as I'm doing right now. But basically having him be this like literally 23 or like 24-year-old guy, and he basically is already like a point in his career that sounds like to me that other people are only at when they're like 40. That just felt like, wait, is this realistic? Are there actual 23-year-old airline captains out there? I feel like that's not really a thing. I feel like that's very far removed from reality. Or like maybe in general, this is a theme I'm picking up with myself right now, that I don't want to read about 23-year-olds that already have their entire life together, that are already like, I don't know, getting married, or that already have like their own houses, or are already like the CEO of their own companies, and me being almost 23-year-old and I'm still like a college student. I don't like that. I don't like reading about those stories. Like, if I'm reading about stories that involve characters like that, I want them to be at least, like, honestly, at least 5 years older than me, possibly and preferably 10, 15, 20 years older than me, though, because if they're like too close to my age, if not even like the same age as me, or God forbid possibly even younger, I can't help comparing myself. And I am not an airline captain, not that I would want to be, but you know what I'm saying. I'm not yet hyper successful in the job that I want to have. Like, he has already basically reached the highest spot on his possible career ladder, right? Being an airline captain, not just like a pilot, but already a captain, because apparently there's a difference. I thought airline pilot, airline captain, that those two were synonyms. Apparently not. Apparently captain is like a rank above just being a mere pilot. Anyway, so he's only 23, but he apparently has already reached all the possible things that he can achieve with his career. And I'm just here in my first semester of my master's. I don't appreciate that comparison that I am bound to make if this character in the book is basically my age. You see what I'm saying? I'm sure that you have maybe experienced the same thing, that, I don't know, there's this very uncanny thing reading about characters that are your age, because you're bound to compare yourself and like your life situation with their life situation, even though these are fictional characters. But yeah, I'm just noticing that now. I don't appreciate reading books about 22, 23-year-olds because I'm 22, soon to be 23. Anyway, maybe that got a bit personal, but that was another thought I had on Ugly Love. Anyway, after that, I listened to The Wife Upstairs. I listened to the other book by the same author. I think the same month. I think I only talked about it in the video I uploaded last week. There was Reckless Girl, this other book of the same author. And because I really liked Reckless Girls, I now also wanted to listen to The Wife Upstairs. But The Wife Upstairs did not do it for me at all, pretty much. This is supposed to be a thriller. Was it that thrilling? I mean, there are two big twists in this story. The first one is not really a twist, though, I would argue, because if you're seriously surprised by the first twist in the book, I have one question for you. Did you read the title of this book? And if your answer is yes, then how could you possibly be surprised by the first twist of this book? Just to reiterate, the book is called The Wife Upstairs. Now, could you possibly imagine what might be the big first twist of this book? I'm sure you could come up with it. So this story is about some girl, she's a dog walker in like this really fancy neighborhood, and just like one day while doing her job walking dogs in the neighborhood, she meets this super hot, super rich guy that also lives there. I don't know, she has never met him before, and basically they hit it off right away. And that, like, in general, I do not like the insta love trope, because I also don't really believe in insta love. I mean, obviously attraction from first sight is a thing, but I don't believe that love at first sight is a thing. Anyway, so basically these two immediately hit it off, but the book, it just went way too fast. Like, it did not make it believable that these two actually liked each other that much. Like, there was no build up to their relationship. I didn't buy it at all, that they were so obsessed with one another that basically after a week only or something like that, he asks her, do you want to move in with me? And she says yes, because basically our girl, she's kind of hot up. She's sharing this flat with this creepy guy. She's always behind on rent because she truly does not have a lot of money. So when this guy, the super rich, super hot guy that she gets along with greatly, asks her to move in, she's like, sure, yes, anything is better than the living reality that she's experiencing at the moment. And once she moves in, it does become her goal that she kind of like wants to, like, she truly likes him, but she also now truly wants to weasel her way into his life because she wants this luxurious lifestyle for herself as well. And basically it works out. After, I don't know, like a couple of months, he asks her to marry him, and it's like the fulfillment of all her dreams, which, I mean, that trope in general, this portrayal of how her getting like a rich husband is like her only goal, is that a trope we really truly want to read about anymore? Guys, my roommate came home, so I had to stop, but she's in the shower right now. That's why I can't record this clip. Also, I listened to some of the clips before, and you can totally, for the entire time, hear the like whirring of the fridge in the background. By the way, this is not a fridge. This is a straight up freezer. I have evidence that this freezer, it froze my egg, and it's supposed to be a fridge. And yet the egg I put in there, soft boiled, it came out frozen. There was like a literal crystallized ice layer on it. I don't know what this is, so I'm probably gonna turn it off anyway, because I don't need a freezer, I need a fridge. Anyway, and just in case there's like some smart ass watching this, no, I did not put my egg in the freezer compartment, but in the normal fridge compartment, and yet it still came out frozen. Anyway, should I just tell you about the, like, this video is already such a mess with like the background noises all over, but okay, I figured I would just like really quickly tell you about The Wife Upstairs, and then there's only one more book I wanted to talk about, so let me just do that really quickly. So basically about The Wife Upstairs, as I just already insinuated, I didn't like it at all because I found the relationship between the two main characters to be absolutely unbelievable, because like things just happen so quickly with them, for them. I just didn't buy it. Suddenly she's moving in with him, suddenly he's asking her to marry him, and like, good for her, because this is like all she was trying to get him to do anyway. But like in general, obviously I don't like it if the woman's only goal in the story is to get married to the rich man and have all her problems solved that way. That's not cute. Why are we still like doing that? Why is that still a trope in the 21st century? I mean, come on. So that part obviously was not that great. Then there's this one big twist that the title of the story fully already gives away. and then there's another twist. Did I see that one coming? It is heavily insinuated from a certain point onwards, I believe. So I did see it coming in that sense, but there's like the second layer that was interesting for sure, but I was not in general a fan of the entire thing. So yeah, if you're looking to check out something by this particular author, I think her name is Rachel Hawkins. Is that right? I'm not sure. I would like advise you to go for Reckless Girls and not The Wife Upstairs. And now, last but not least, this is a book, I think I only picked it up on like the 31st of August, so obviously I mainly read it in September, but by the time I'm recording this, I have already finished reading it, so I'm just going to talk about it right here, and that is Portrait of a Thief. I finally read this book. This has been on my TBR for like months, and I finally got it via Libby. This is a heist story about five or six? I think it's 6, wait, what? 5 or 6 Chinese American students that are being recruited by this super rich, super young CEO billionaire from China to steal back basically 5 pieces of art that have been looted from China centuries, decades ago, and are still residing in Western institutions all over the world. Because the history and logistic of looted art in Western institutions is actually something that I'm very interested in. That is what I'm doing my academic research on. That is what I wrote my bachelor thesis on, and it is also what I plan on continuing doing research now during my master's and maybe even in my entire life. I don't know. This is very much something I'm personally interested in, so I was so excited to pick up this book. This is written by a Chinese American author, I believe, so I completely appreciated this aspect of having a Chinese American perspective on, well, the particular situation about China's looted art in Western institutions. So this was a very fascinating book for me out of that perspective alone. This book also heavily so focused on the Chinese American identity crisis these 5 still very young people are experiencing. Each of them is struggling with different aspects of it in particular, but that is another theme that is heavily explored in this book. So if you're interested in either or of these 2 main themes, this is a fantastic read to get into. The book is quite long. It's like 550 pages, and this is just like a general opinion of mine. No book, unless it's Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, needs to be 550 pages long. That is a general statement that I'm putting out there. Feel free to fight me on it, but I'm afraid to tell you already that you are wrong if you're not agreeing with me on this statement. Honestly, anything that goes above and beyond 400 pages, I'm like, you could probably just like edit certain parts out of that book. It would make the book better and would keep it below that 400 page mark. Most books, like 98% of all books, do not need to be more than 400 pages long. That is true. It's the truth, I'm afraid to say so. Anyway, so does that go true for this book as well? I mean, I don't have my notes with me, so I'm not saying like this particular page could have been left out, but yeah, I mean, this is something to be discussed, but yeah, it could have probably been a bit shorter, but I did very much enjoy the exploration of the 2 subjects that I just mentioned. And I mean, I do like a heist story. I'm not gonna lie, I do really like a heist story, though I think, and this is again maybe like a controversial statement I'm putting out there, but I do believe that the heist trope, let's call it, lends itself better to movie/series adaptations than to books. I think exploring the theme of heist in movies and books is just a more fun way to experience it than to just read about it without the visual element. Obviously, when reading, you just create your own pictures in your heads, but especially with heists, I think personally I preferred consuming that kind of content in series format and have someone else give me, well, their cool visuals, Ocean's 8, 11, 12, 13 style with the cool cuts and I don't know, the sick editing and the cool backgrounds, etc. I don't know. I think heists make more sense for movies and films, but maybe that's just my personal opinion. But good news here, apparently the book, even before its release date, has been picked up by Netflix, or at least the production rights. So far, I have not heard about it actually coming out as a series, but there might potentially be a series adaptation of this, or like maybe a movie adaptation, I'm not sure, of this novel up there in the future somewhere. I would really appreciate it because I really like the book. I really like the themes it explored. It would be so cool if this got turned into a movie slash series, because then even more people, I believe, would pick it up if it's something I can watch on Netflix instead of it being a book that you have to read, because more people watch Netflix than they read books, I guess. So I hope this will actually turn into a successful production. I would really be interested in checking that one out. Still already, the book in itself, I really appreciate it for the themes it explores. Hey you guys, it's just me jumping on to end this video because back then I had to finish the clip because my roommate came out of the shower without me like being able to say goodbye to you guys. So basically those were all the books I read in the second half of August, right? At this point it's already like mid-September. I'm sorry I have not been as diligent with like uploading and stuff because like uni got kind of crazy, but I will, I think, make a video about the books I read in the first half of September for like next week or like in 2 weeks. I'm trying to still produce content, but yeah, uni has just been like a lot. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know which of these books you're now planning to pick up, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye.